Hello everybody, welcome to this wonderful simplified tutorial with K. Today we're going to focus on government as a subject, and in today's session we are supposed to handle some questions. So here are the questions that I'm going to handle today. Number one said, what is government? I have to explain what is government. Number two said, explain the structure of government. I need to explain the structure of government. Number three said, mention 5 functions of government. I should mention 5 functions of government. Number 4 says, what is a state? I should explain what is a state. And then number 5 said, mention 4 elements of a state. So these 5 questions I will address in this section, and I hope that you get something from it. So I am supposed to start with the fourth question here, which says, what is government? If you are in the secondary section, especially those in the senior secondary section, and then if you're just entering there, you're in SS1, senior secondary 1, then it then means that you are going to be introduced to a subject known as government. So like I said, I am going to start with what is government. I would like to start with the textbook definition of government as it is stipulated in the scheme of work that you are going to be used, the teachers are going to use to teach you. But let me give you kind of a small overview of what government is all about, how it started. Government started many years ago. In fact, the first act of government was attributed to those that are living in modern day Iraq, a particular city called Suma in Iraq. And human beings started organizing themselves so many years ago when they discovered agriculture. When agriculture came up, people now begin to discover that really we don't need to depend on hunting, we don't need to depend on it as the day goes. We can arrange our food, we can arrange a particular place, plant our seeds, and then it will do well enough for us to take care of ourselves every day. There's no more a necessity for us to hunt before we eat. So because of that, some people can get more food because they know how to plant, can get more food than they themselves can eat, so they can give others. So those who they can give, so people discover that they don't have interest in agriculture, they have interest in craft, they have interest in hunting, they have interest in carving, they have interest in so many other things. So because there's enough food, there's no more necessity for one to depend on hunting alone. So people now begin to develop different skills, different talent. So it becomes a necessity for the gathering of people around the growing population to have a kind of regulation. It is this need for a regulation that resulted in people depending on the head of the gang, the headers of the land, and from there, what we know today as a government started. So, like I said, the first sign of government was attributed to those that are living in a city called Suma in Iraq, so many years ago. But that is not within the scope of those in the secondary section, which is the people I'm supposed to address today. So if you are asked what is government, now look at how you're going to present your question, your answer, please. This is how you're going to present your answer. You're going to say that government can be defined. Once a government is a government can be defined in 3 angles. Government can be defined in 3 angles. 1, as an institution. 2, as a process or a system. And 3, as a course an academic course in the university. You understand? As an academic subject. You understand? So government can be defined as a kind of in 3 angles. 1, as an institution. 2, as a process or a system. 3, as an academic field or as a subject in the academic world. So if you look carefully, you discover that I have tried to differentiate the different aspects of government. So now let's go deep into the definition. And now when you say government can be defined in 3 angles: 1, as an institution; 2, as a process or a system; and 3, as an academic field or an academic subject. Now you can now say, what does it mean to be an institution? Government as an institution means that government is a kind of a machinery, a kind of an agency that kind of formulates and expresses and then pursues and try to achieve the interests and the views and opinions of the people. Do you understand? So of the state, let me now put the people of the state. Now when you are asked that, government as an institution is an agency, you know. So government as an institution is kind of an agency, it's kind of a machinery. It's a body of people that has been either appointed or elected, you understand, to oversee the affairs of people, the population, to see to the formulation of laws, to see to the execution of laws, to see to the propagation of the interests of the people, to see to the provisions of the degree of things like security and others. You know, so government as an institution is an agency. It's a machinery that works for the people, that helps to organize the people, that helps to protect the people, that helps to do what? To secure the people and provide enabling environment for the people to live. So this is a definition of government as an institution. It's a kind of an agency that helps in the formulation of the interest of the population, that helps in the expression of the interest of the population, that helps in the protection of the interest of the population. So when you are asked this way, you can now itemize this in a way that it makes more sense. You know, say government as an institution is a kind of an agency, it's a kind of a machinery that helps whose purpose is to kind of formulate the laws and organize the population and protect and pursue and provide the interest of the people. That's what government as an institution entails. That's what government as an institution means. So if you ask, just tell them that government as an institution is an agency that protects, provides, and then formulates, the interest of the people, of the population. Now when you say government as a kind of a process, government as a process or government as a system, government as a process is a system of operation, a system. So government as a process, it's a system of governance, a system of operation that does not depend on people. It's a pattern of organizing people. So government as a process or as an as a kind of a system is not dependent on human beings. It's a pattern of organizing people. It's a pattern of operation that is, that transcends individuals. So when you say government as a process, example, democracy is a government as a process of government. Oligarchy is a monarchy is a kind of a system of government. So it is not dependent on individuals. It is a system, a pattern of operation, a pattern of governance that ensures the formulation, that informs the protections, that informs the execution of the interest of the population, the interest of the state. The interest of the state. So when we talk about government as a process, we talk about government as a system, and a pattern of governance that ensures the interest of the state is protected, that the interest of the state is pursued, that the interest of the state is formulated. So if you put it like that, you get your full mark. Now if you look at government as an academic field, when you say government as academic field, a kind of a subject, you discover that this is a kind of an academic subject that are being studied in the universities, known as political science, studied in the secondary school as known as government, as you are doing now if you are in the secondary section. So this last part, which is government as a subject, as an academic field, is basically based on the theories of government, the formalities of government, studying and learning the patterns of different types of government, understanding how government works. That is government as a field of study. So now I'm going to look at the second question here, which says explain the structure of government. Actually, explain the structure of government. Yes, for government to be effective, for government to be efficient, there should be a degree of structure, a workable structure, an efficient structure that has proven over time to be effective, to be reliable. So the structure of government is organized in this way. We have basic three arms of government which enables the government to perform effectively, to perform efficiently. These three arms of government is the legislative arm of the government, the executive arm of the government, and the judiciary arm of the government. So you should understand that the structure of government entails the three arms of government. The structure of the government entails the three arms of government, which is basically the legislative, the executive, and then the judiciary. So if you ask to expatiate on this three, you can now go forward and say the legislative arm of government is focused on formulating laws. They focus on formulating laws. They are the ones we call the senators, the House of Representatives. They gather together. They are representatives from different angles, come together to see how they can formulate laws that will govern every other person. So their job is to formulate laws. I understand. So now we go towards the judiciary. The judiciary are the ones that interpret the law. They interpret the law. They explain the law to the people. They try to enforce, that is, try to make sure that people understand the law and live by the law. So that's the judiciary. They interpret the law. They use the law to judge people. They use the law to guide people. So when we talk about the judiciary, we talk about the lawyers, we talk about the judges. These are the people that work on the arm of government known as the judiciary arm of government. Now we talk about the what do you call it, the executive. So now we're looking at the last one, the executive, which is those who are empowered and mandated to execute the law. These are the law enforcement agents. These are the people that are in the executive position, like the president of a country, like the governor of a state. These are the executive officers. They are in the position to enforce the law. They are in the position to execute the law. So now we have the legislative, those who formulate these laws. Now we have the judiciary, those who interpret these laws, who explain these laws, who use these laws to resolve issues by explaining it to different parties. They can judge. They are the ones that are the judges and the lawyers. That's why we call them the judiciary arm of government. Now we have the executive arm of the government. That are people who execute the law, who are empowered to execute the law, to force the law on people, to make sure that the people cooperate with the law. So that's what they call the executive arm of government. So I think I have made I done justice to that particular area, which is the structure of government. Now we're going to look at the 5 functions of government. The 5 functions of government. What are the 5 functions of government? It's important that you understand this area, because these are the rudimentary aspect, the introductory aspect of the subject of government. What are the 5 function of government? So 5 function of the government simply means the 5 areas that governments operates in their daily activities. One, what is the first function of the government? The first function of the government is, of course, we should know, to formulate laws that will govern everybody, to formulate the right law that everybody will be comfortable with, and at least like majority of people will be comfortable with. So formulation of laws, making wonderful laws that will help everybody, is the number 1 function of the government. Number 2 function of the government is to provide social amenities, to make the life of people better, to provide them with a better living condition, a better living environment, to provide the roads, good road for them, to provide maybe power, provide all the amenities that they need to function well in the society. Don't forget that people are supposed to pay tax for this. People are supposed to contribute to that. So that's the second function of the government, to provide good amenities, to provide a very beautiful amenities for people to live by. So the second function of the government is to provide basic, enabling and conducive amenities for people. Now the third function of government is to provide what we call defense and security, to defend the people and then to provide them with security. So the government's job is to make sure that they have equipment, they have agencies that will do what that is purely devoted towards protecting the people and then defending the people. So defense and security is the third function of government. The third function of government is defending the people and providing them with security. That is the third function of government. The fourth function of government is providing employment. You have to provide employment, provide a function of government which is all about providing providing employment for people. Now the fifth function of government is to enforce the law and order, to make sure that there's the maintenance of law and order in the society, to make sure there's peace, there's security, that is enforcement of law and order, that people don't just go without laws, they don't just go without order, that there is orderliness, there's lawness, there's organization in the society. So if you look at what I just said, the 5 basic function of the government is 1, formulation of laws, making sure that it makes law that is good for everybody. The second function of the government is providing basic amenities, to make sure that that the people have good amenities to live by. Now the third one is to provide defense and security, to make sure people feel secure, to provide defense and security for the people. Now the fourth one is to provide employment. You have to provide employment, provide avenues for employment for people. And then the fifth one is to provide what we know as a maintenance of law and order, to make sure that laws and order are maintained, that people don't live a lawless life, that they live in accordance with the law. Those who have broken the law are brought to book. So you see that government is a good thing if you understand how it works. So if you ask this question, this is how you are going to answer them. The 5 basic functions of government, you are going to mention provision of formulation of laws, good laws for the people, provision of good, wonderful basic amenities for the people, social amenities. Number 3, you have to provide defense and security for the people. Number 4, you have to provide what? You have to provide employment for the people. And the 5th one, you have to provide what we call as a maintenance of law and order. You have to make sure that the laws and order in the society. What is a state? What is a state? This is interesting. What is a state? What is a state? Now, if you ask what is a state, now look at how you're going to answer this question. You're going to say that a state is a political entity that has a population of people, have a defined territory, and have a defined a defined political organizational structure. You understand? So if you ask what is a state is a political entity that have a defined territory. They have sovereignty. I forgot to mention that one. They have sovereignty of power, and then they have a defined political structure. You understand? That's what a state means. A state is a political entity that has what? They have sovereignty of power of themselves. They can determine who rules them and who does not rule them. They don't wait. That's what sovereignty is all about. They don't wait for other people from outside the particular political territory, political entity to influence them. They have power to decide who rules them or who does not rule them. They have powerful. They know their borders. They have a well-defined territory. So that's what we call a state. Now, I want to tell you something about this idea called state, because it did not just come up anyway. The idea of a state is attributed to what happened during the Roman Empire, when they have what we call the 30 Years War. This is not part of the scheme of those in the secondary session, but I want you to have a kind of a background of how a state come about. During the Roman Empire, there was about a 30 Years War in Europe then, because there is a huge war between the Roman Catholics and the Protestants, and so many people, so many small factions, small groups have joined together in the concept of a state is attributed to what happened in the so many years ago, actually in 1648. Actually, I think it's 1648. What we call the Westphalia Treaty of Peace. Westphalia Treaty of Peace. This started because in the then Roman Empire there was a huge mutiny. There's a huge 30 years war where the Protestants and the Roman Catholics were on each other. They were fighting each other, and with so many other functions, so many other groups joining in the fracas, in the fray, in the war. So this thing now resulted to so much destruction, so much death, so much catastrophe. So for that reason, they now come together and agreed on how to settle this wonderful, painful, disturbing dispute that has lasted for more than 30 years. So what did they do? They come together and then they agreed on some things, and it is based on that agreement that it is believed that the idea of state came up. Now, so during that period, they agreed that each group should have what we call autonomy, should have what we call sovereignty, that no one group should interfere in the affairs of another group. So this is the origin of what we know today as nations, as states. That is why if you go to the Middle East today, you discover that there is a huge controversy surrounding the state of Israel, because some people refuse to recognize Israel as a state, while some people agree that Israel is a state. What it means that Israel does not have power of sovereignty. That is what it means for those people that does not agree that Israel is a state. When you have a state, when you are recognized as a state, it means that you have. So like I said, the state is built upon the idea that was evolved through the treaty that was had in Westphalia in 1648, which is how the 30 Years' War was resolved in the then Roman Empire, when the Protestants and the Catholics were having a very serious war that involved so many other groups coming up. You understand? So every other group coming up, nobody knows which group to belong or which group is in this, which power this will have. So they have to build a kind of an international relationship, a kind of an agreement that allows everybody to have autonomy, to have power over their people, so that one group will not interfere in the affairs of other people. So it is from that particular treaty, according to many philosophers, many historians, from that particular treaty, that particular agreement, that the idea of a state come up. That is where we have international relations now, where America cannot interfere in the affairs of Nigeria, because Nigeria is a state, America is a state. America has power to elect their own government, America has power to decide the affairs of their own people, Nigeria has power to elect their own government, their own president, and then they have their power to decide the affairs of the people of the state. So now you can understand where the idea of state come up. Now I'm going to answer the last question here, which is said, mention 4 elements of the state. Mention 4 elements of the state. Now you have to mention number 1 is, of course, number 1 element of the state is that the state must have population. You have to have population. Number 2, the state must have government. They have a political structure or government that governs the people. Number 3, a state must have a defined territory. You have boundaries, have a defined territory. You can't just say you're a state where you don't have any land, you don't have any structure, you don't have boundaries, you don't have structure. You have a well-defined territory. That is what is defined as a state. So number 4, the 4th element of a state is that the state must have sovereignty, must have power, absolute power to run and oversee the affairs of your people. You cannot say you have a sovereignty when other people are influencing you, when other people are telling you what to do. In a state, you take decisions by yourself. You have power of autonomy. Sovereignty means absolute power to run and administer the affairs of your people. That's what sovereignty means. You have absolute power. The power is not being controlled from outside. It's not dependent on outsiders. The sovereignty, for you to be a state, means that you have absolute power to run, to administer, to oversee the affairs of the people of the state. So the state has power. The state organizes themselves. That's what it means to be a state. So it don't just happens to be a state all of a sudden. It took Nigeria many years to come to a point of independence. When Nigeria gained their independence, they become a full-fledged state. Before then, during the colonial eras, the Nigerian government is run from Britain. So when your country is run by another country, another head of state, you are not a state yet. Now, the moment you come to the point of being a state, means that you have a defined territory, you have a strong structure, political structure known as government. You have a strong government, strong political structure. Now you have sovereignty, and then finally you have population. That is the 4 elements of a state. 1 is you have to have population. 2, you have to have sovereignty. 3, that you have to have territory. And 4th one, you have to have what? You have to have a political structure. So that is the 4 elements of a state. You have political structure. You have political structure, which is known as government. You have to have sovereignty, which is not absolute power to run over. So in summary of today's topic, I will start from the end and then I go to the beginning. All right. We talked about the features of a state, which I said, 1, you have to have population. 2, you have to have sovereignty for you to be a state. 3, you have to have well-defined, well-classified, well-explained territory, boundaries, borders. You have to know which land belongs to you. That is what we call territory. Territory means the land that belongs to you, the boundaries of the land that belongs to you. Then the 4th one, you have to have what? A political structure. Do you understand? So that is the 4 elements of a state. 1 is population, 2 is sovereignty, 3 is territory, and 4 is government. That is the 4 features of a state. Now I'm going to run through the other one. What is a state actually? I told you that a state is a political entity that has a well-defined territory, a population, and the sovereignty. If you write like that, you get the mark. A state is a political entity that have a well-defined territory, a population, and a what? and the sovereignty to oversee the affairs of their people. That's what we call a state. Now you can even add that have a very strong political structure. Now the other one, I said the 5 functions of the government. You asked what is 5 functions of the government. I told you that the 5 functions of the government is simple. You should have to say that the government provides employment, government provides social amenities, government provides defense and security, government provides maintenance of law and order. These are the main functions of the government. Now we talked about the structure of government, and I mentioned that we have 3 arms of government to facilitate effectiveness and efficiency. We now talked about the structures of the structures of government. And I said that the structure of government is for efficacy and efficiency. For efficacy and efficiency, we now say that for the structure of government to work well, for government to work well, it must have very strong structures. And these structures are divided into 3 arms. We have the executive, we have the legislative, we now have the judiciary. And I told you that the judiciary interprets the law. The legislative is the one that formulates the law, while the executive are the one that executes the law, the one that performs the law. That's called executing. They performs the law, enforces the law. That's what called executive. While the legislative are the ones that do what? The one that formulate the law. They are the one that make up the law. They're the one that come up with the wonderful law that will govern the people. While the judiciary are the one that interprets the law. They explain the law. They use the law to judge cases. So that's what we call the judiciary. That's why we have the judiciary